Thank you, everybody, for coming today. PALDT is proud to introduce Dr. Secil Caskurlu, which I jacked that up. So please fix that when you start talking, to our speaker session today. She holds a PhD in learning design and technology from Purdue University, and her overall research focuses on the design, development, and evaluation of technology-rich learning experiences to enhance student outcomes, including learning and engagement. So specifically, the first line of her research focuses on the social and cognitive factors that impact student outcomes, how to make use of them during the design, development, and evaluation phases. The second strand of her research focuses on educating teachers to integrate computational thinking into their teaching and enhance disciplinary instruction. In other words, she examines mechanisms to develop and assess teacher competencies for computational thinking integration. In addition, she has designed, developed, and taught various face-to-face, blended, and fully online graduate courses, focusing on different topics ranging from instructional design to advanced research in instructional design and technology to online teaching and learning. From a practical perspective, she's been doing consultation work for faculty and graduate students in different fields with a focus on instructional design, competency-based education, as well as online teaching and learning. Today, we're going to focus on her current work at Michigan State University, where she's a Postdoctoral Research Associate in the Educational Psychology and Educational Technology program at Michigan State. So please have a warm welcome for Dr. Caskurlu. So Secil, thank you again so much for joining us this evening and taking the time to help us explore postdoc positions. So this conversation is going to be based on student submitted questions. And at any time, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. But first, let's just start with the basics. So can you explain and kind of elaborate on what a postdoc is for some of us who may not know?
Sure. I'd say that the postdoc positions is in between graduate students and being faculty. And you are supposed to, so basically you are joining a research group, and then you are conducting research related to your supervisor's research or related to that project. So, but you're dependent to your supervisor, but at the same time you're independent because expectations are higher, and you need to kind of go through the whole research process from beginning to the end. Okay. And also, there are also mentoring expectations because, the graduate students also join those research groups. And you also, there's also expectation to mentor graduate students as well.
Okay, awesome. So that kind of leads into kind of roles and responsibilities. And so there was a question from the group that had talked about in terms of research specifically, when you join a postdoc position, are you being told what kind of research you can do, or are you free to, pick whatever kind of research you're interested in?
So in my case, since that the postdoc funding is coming from a funded project, so you are going to work on that funded project. So like, for instance, right now I'm working with my supervisors in my supervisor's project related to his research interest. But I also have the flexibility to kind of like come up with my own research ideas related to that topic. But in your free time, you can always conduct your own research as well. But your main responsibility to contribute to a research project that you are hired.
And does that the research project that you're hired to do, is that something that has a 1-year appointment, a 3-year appointment? How does your appointment, so to speak, how is that determined?
So in my case, my appointment was for 3 years, but the one downside of the postdoc positions is your appointments really depends on funding. So but my appointment was 3 years, but there are also 1 year, 2 years postdoc positions available.
Awesome. So can you just talk about a little bit of like, what's the day in the life for you? Can you talk about your current projects? I imagine not every day is the same, but in a typical week, what are you tasked with doing?
Sure. So our research project focus on the computational thinking integration in K-12, and we're specifically working with middle school teachers. And we are working with ELA, English language arts, and the social science teachers. So in our current project, we also have the professional development. So we are conducting professional development for teachers to kind of enhance their competencies for computational thinking integration. So in my typical day, so I have that research aspect, but we are also consistently prepare those professional developments for teachers, designing those professional developments and then conducting those professional developments. So the typical days really changes depending on like where the project is. So, but yeah, again, it's doing research, contributing to the design and the data collection process.
Awesome.
And also meeting, joining the group meetings.
So in your group, how many people do you have that you work with?
Right now, so there are three PIs. One is from New York, which is research consultant, and we have one organizational partner and the MSU, and there are also one graduate student. So we are mainly 4 people in our research group. And everybody has like different responsibilities. So like, for instance, my supervisor, he's the PI of the project, and he's more related to the research side of the project. And the New York person, he's more doing the partnerships with the schools. And then the person from the organization, the private organization, and he's more leading the professional development efforts.
So to kind of elaborate on that, and since you have so many stakeholders from so many different places that are doing different things, I'm wondering if you could just elaborate on how those relationships have been. How is it dealing with people from different universities, different places who have different responsibilities? Was that an easy transition for you to come into, or is that something that you've had to navigate as you've taken your postdoc position?
It was a little bit challenging at the beginning because there are too many stakeholders and their work styles are completely different. And I'm also coming from a different work style and kind of different working culture. So adjusting that work culture was a little bit challenging at the beginning, but then I think on the way of the postdoc, I got used to it. But I think one thing is everybody has different expectations. And everybody has different also perspectives on like related to project. So meeting those expectations and then managing that differences, that was a little bit challenging at the beginning.
So how did you, I guess this is more from us kind of just trying to understand everything, about your position, but how did you handle that? Like, did you talk to your peers? How did you navigate dealing with that conflict in that position?
I wouldn't say like there's that much conflict, but I think the communication is the key. So whenever I have questions, kind of like I ask my supervisor, I ask other people, or I try to, at the beginning it was like difficult to understand because I was new to the project and I was new to the people. So understanding like what's going on in the project was challenging, but communicating with the people and asking them help. Okay, I'm not clear about this, can clarify this. I was also lucky because at the beginning I started as like 30%. And during that time, kind of it was my time to get used to the project and the people that I was working.
So that was another question that came in from the student submitted questions was your roles and responsibilities. So in addition to the research you're doing, are you required to do any teaching? Are you is there a minimum, like most tenure track positions have like, X amount of publications, or they want to see, how you're growing as a professor. So how, I guess if you don't have teaching responsibilities or publication expectations, how are you evaluated, or what is considered good work that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in a postdoc position?
Yeah. So in my project, I don't have any teaching responsibilities. So all of my work is is about research. It's really difficult to say I have to get that much publication. So there's a publication aspect because of it's a research-based position. But when I started, we did not have any data, and it was difficult to write a paper without any data. So yeah, and also I started during COVID times, and our teacher professional developments, we had to postpone them almost a year because we were not able to get teachers to participate in the professional development. So what I did, I ended up conducting a systematic review and qualitative synthesis using my skills from the graduate schools, and they were my major research projects in the first 2 years. But then, we start collecting data now. I have started working on the publications. But also, in terms of evaluation, right now Michigan State, we also have to send the annual review report, like how many publications we made, and then the conferences we participate and the service. So the Michigan State also does those yearly evaluations for postdocs as well.
And so does your, do you report to your PI who then evaluates you, or who is responsible for looking at your yearly evaluations and saying, okay, she's doing what we've asked her to do?
So we always have communicating with my PI. So I have bi-weekly meetings with my PI to go through the process, like how we are doing, what we are doing, like where are we at, and what we should do in the next. But in terms of the Michigan State's evaluation, so we have to submit it to the review committee. Then, they ask the supervisor, and the supervisor also write a evaluation for me. Then I meet my supervisor, and I talk to my supervisor about my progress, and he gives me kind of like the details and the insights, like how I can improve myself and then what we should do.
Yeah. And who makes up that evaluation committee for some of us who may not know? Are those peers? Are those other postdocs?
No, Michigan State has the College of Education. They have their own review committee.
Okay, awesome.
But I'm not sure if it is the same for other institutions. But it was my first time hearing that the postdocs are submit annual reviews.
And you had spoke earlier about using your skills that you learned at your time at Purdue and your graduate studies, and how you've applied that to your postdoc. Are there skills or, things that you wish you would have learned, or that you've had to learn through experience that graduate school didn't provide for you?
Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say the graduate school did not provide me. I think it was my preference. But I think one thing, I never worked with K-12 teachers, and I never worked with K-12 students. And now, the overall focus of my project is working with the K-12 teachers and students. That was a little bit challenging because I'm from Turkey, and the Turkey system and the US system, it's completely different. And my challenge at my current position is to trying to understand what's going on at the middle school level in the US. So that was one of the challenges that I have, and I was kind of wishing I had more experience working with teachers and K-12 students.
I think that's probably common for all of us at some point, right? When we step into these roles, whatever they may be, we're not pros at it right off the bat. So we have to gain some experience through that. So, our graduate programs can prepare us for everything they think, but at the end of the day, there's still going to be things that we just can't get without doing that.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm going to switch over to some student submitted questions in the chat here. So Samet had asked, do you think projects that are related to our field of learning, design, and technology are getting more interest? And do you think that we could find more project opportunities in the future?
Yes, I think there are different directions. And as learning designers, I think we are lucky because we have the expectation we have that understanding like how people learn. And also, I think coming from the R1 school, like at Purdue, we are really getting enough research experience to be able to contribute to those projects. Also, I think with the COVID now, online teaching and learning is increasing. There's a bunch of learning analytics positions available there. And also in my current position, so I didn't have that much computational thinking experience, but my experience at Purdue related to competency-based education, that was the main reason like why I was hired for that position, also the research skills as well. But I believe in the future, I think I have seen more postdoc positions now, and I believe it's gonna increase in the future.
And I want to hop back over to a question that was submitted earlier because you kind of hit on it, but why did you decide to do a postdoc rather than a tenure track position, or what was it about the position that drew your interest?
Yeah, so one of the biggest thing is I want to do research, and so I'm passionate about research, and that was the main reason why I went through the postdoc position before, kind of like blending to a tenure track position. Also, it's not easy to get a tenure track position at an R1 school. And I also wanted to use this process kind of like as a middle step to move forward. Because now I'm thinking like, okay, which direction I want to go? I want to go more research-based positions, or I want to go like the industry positions, or it's kind of like my decision-making time as well. But I think also, sorry, another big thing was my supervisor. He's very big with the getting NSF fundings, and I really wanted to learn from him, like how to write grant proposals and how to work in those large projects. So that was another thing that I was trying to get.
And I think you hit on something that's probably becoming more popular, but probably not well known, is that getting your doctoral degree doesn't mean that you have to become a professor. There's so many other things that you can do with your degree. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why we wanted to do this session, just to open up people's worlds as to what you can do once you have your degree. Mm-hmm. And so one of the other questions that was asked was, how was your interview process? So preparing for a tenure track position versus a postdoc, how did those differ? What did you have to, how was that process like for you?
Sure. So the interview process with the postdoc, whole interview focused on the research project and how you can contribute to that research. So, but in tenure track positions, they're just trying to understand like what you're teaching, what is your research, and like who are you as a scholar. But here, who are you as a researcher, and how you can contribute to that specific project, and what is your expertise to move forward with that project.
So with that being said, when the positions were posted, were you given ample detail about the project and the direction that the project wanted to go, where you were able to kind of read through and say, okay, here's where I can really contribute to the work that you're doing? Okay. So
yeah, when I first saw that position, even the research questions they were trying to investigate, it was posted on the job announcement. So there was a really clear description of the research.
So it's almost like the job posting was like the research proposal, saying like, here's what we want to do. And yeah, awesome. Okay.
So here's what is this project is about, and then this is the skills that we are looking for.
Interesting. Let's go through. So for those of us who would be interested in going this route, what advice would you give?
So for the postdoc rounds, I think try to be flexible. And also, I think about the big picture, like how you can contribute to different projects, because like most of my work at Purdue focus on the online teaching and learning. And I work with adults. and I had that competency-based experience at Purdue, but I think trying to be flexible, how you can use those skills in a different format or with a different research focus is one of the key things. And also finding that postdoc positions, I think, be active on social media. And now, like, we have started seeing the postdoc announcements in the high-rate jobs or on the job search websites. But when I found this position on Twitter. So try to kind of like to follow people. And those positions also posted and on the university's websites. So just search for the university websites and then search for the positions there and then send email. I think being active and then trying to be flexible is the major thing.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions that came up too, was how you found your position. And so I think you hit on a little bit of what's being done now, but how did you actually find this position at Michigan State? Was it following someone on social media, or did you? Okay.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter. Somebody, so I wasn't following my supervisor, so he posted, and then somebody else retweeted his post. This is how I saw the job announcements.
Very cool.
So I just follow the big names and then be active on social media.
And for some of us who may be not social media savvy, so maybe some of us don't like the Twitter, what accounts are you on? So obviously probably like ResearchGate. You said Twitter, no ResearchGate for you?
No ResearchGate for me. So the ResearchGate has those announcements, but they were really unrelated to me, at least. And all those postings, I think, on the ResearchGate, they're also related to science, more science related. So it's not easy to. So when I was looking for postdoc positions, it wasn't easy to find the social science related postdoc positions online. So I saw it on Twitter, but again, as I said, another thing, looking at the university websites, also sending email to the potential PIs.
I know that there's some personal questions here about how you like Michigan, but I'm going to hold off on those. So what kind of skills are most sought in applying for postdocs in the LDT field? Is like for postdocs, I think it probably depends on the position, but would technology or research publications, are they only important, or are they all important in applying? But probably comes back to the post, correct?
Yes, but I think if you're looking for postdoc positions, yes, they want to see output. So I'll make sure at least you have some published work or something like under review or something ongoing on that you can talk about. And also make sure, I think, again, like making sure for preparing yourself, because we don't know like what kind of projects are out there. So just make sure you have different research skills, like the qualitative, quantitative research skills, even though you don't have to be an expert, but just have a basic understanding of like the qualitative research and the quantitative research. Because in the postdoc positions, there's the learning expectations as well, but you're not at the grad school anymore, and you have to go through with those projects, like the learning new things. It's not that easy because you cannot take courses to learn those new skills. So I think preparing yourself to be able to conduct different types of research is really important.
So you kind of hit on it that, in your role, you can't really just up and take a course. What type of professional development, or how have you managed to stay on track of your own development and learning of new things while in your full-time position?
I think I was lucky I'm lucky to have a supportive supervisor, because whenever I need those professional development support, I'm just asking him if there's any funding, or if I have any opportunities to do those kind of things. So my PI is really open, and also in our kind of like bi-weekly conversations with my PI, we're not really only talking about research, but also talking about my own development and what kind of support and need I have, like what kind of support and need that I need from him. So I was lucky. Also, other thing is, again, like, I'm passionate about research, and being a researcher and being in those research positions, research is your life. And I still continue to do my research at Purdue. Thank you to Dr. Richardson supporting me on this track as well. So I think there's a bunch of different opportunities you just need to seek and ask.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that grad students sometimes in general, I think, are a bit hesitant to do is, ask questions. The worst that they can do is tell you no, right? So, I mean, that's one thing that we as grad students can always do is just reach out, ask the question, and then go from there. And so I do want to kind of move to the personal question. So there was a lot of questions submitted on how you like Michigan, how you like the job overall, how is life for you going?
So I like Michigan. So the East Lansing is bigger than West Lafayette. By the way, I'm still missing Purdue. But I like Michigan. It's more green, a little bit colder, but there's lots of nature and the lakes over here. So I love Michigan. And MSU's campus is much bigger than the Purdue's campus. So it's a different experience.
And for those who may have missed at the beginning, Secil did just have a young boy, Tume. So I imagine he's keeping you busy as well.
He is. He's keeping me so busy.
Good. Samet asked if you completed the M22 tour, which I have no clue what that is. So Samet, you might have to unmute and explain.
Yeah, it's on eastern coast of Michigan, Lake Michigan. You start around like just after when you leave Indiana. The tour begins, M22, like scenic road begins around there. The best season to go around, you can just drive up north and then make a U towards Traverse City, I guess.
Yeah.
So it takes around 4 to 5 hours, but it's beautiful, especially beginning from second half of September to maybe almost end of October, depending on the season.
I did it in the summer, but before coming to MSU. Actually, I did after my PhD qualification.
Wow.
Exam, yeah. After my prelim, yeah, I had the break. And I did the trip.
It's a nice road.
Yeah.
And at this time, I just want to open it up, welcome people to unmute and ask any questions that we see fit. Or I guess before we get started, Secil, do you have any last advice or guidance that maybe we didn't hit on?
I was just looking at the questions that you sent me. I think one of the questions was, so since we have also international population, yeah, the visa sponsorship.
Oh, yes.
So that it may not be available all the time. So you're going to have your OPT, and I had my academic training, but I had 1 year left when I started this position. Now the Michigan State sponsor me for H-1B, but which may not be available for all postdoc positions. So especially if you are international, and then if you also have those visa concerns, this is one of the things that you might ask your PI at the beginning, saying like you need that support, whether they will be able to support you in that process as well.
Yes, thank you for hitting that. I think I missed that. You mean when you're doing postdocs, you can apply for an H-1B visa?
Yes. If you're a postdoc and if the university sponsor for H-1B visa, yes, you can apply. They can also apply J1 visa, but since I had J1 visa before, then I had to go back to my own country for 1 year to be able to get another J1. So it was not really feasible. So MSU did H1B for me. I think most of the big schools are doing those H1B support. Yes, even the contract is only 3 years. the MSU sponsored. But also, I think, again, thanks to my supervisor, he was like, we need to support Secil and we need to get H-1B visa for her. And he just started the process. So just make sure your supervisor really understand like all of the situations that you can come across during that process. Then they can think about like how they can support you.
So last call for a couple questions. Well, thank you so much for everyone hopping in and for Secil for giving up some time to talk to us about what postdocs are, your experiences thus far. I really appreciate it.